Welcome back to another episode of Sharp Stats. It is time to sharpen our brain. We've got Katie, the queen of stats, with us. As always, we got Jake in his nice hat that I bought and then gave to him. Congrats, Jake, on wearing that nice hat I bought for you that one time. And myself, John Boy, coming to you to talk about the finer things in this great sport of baseball, the analytics. Running the game these days, everyone's got an analytics department, and so does Talking Yanks. How about that? I never realized that. I could say that. Yeah. Time for us to step into the big leagues. We got an analytics department.
Yeah, that's going, Katie. I think that might have to find its way into your Twitter profile there.
Head of the Talking Yanks.
Twitter account, resume, whatever it takes, man.
Head of the Talking Yanks.
The analytics department of one.
Yeah.
I'd like to be a half person on the.
Okay, you can be.
You're not the
half of share.
He's not the
intern.
Half a share. He's like, you keep Jake around so the rest of the analytics department feels smarter.
Oh, okay.
You're like morale booster for the analytics. Like Cashman has one guy in the room with him that's like, why don't we trade back for Cano? And they're like, wow, that's so stupid. Anyone have a better idea? That's okay. You.
Just your reality check. Reality check analytics.
Well, Not where I was hoping to go. I was hoping it was kind of like the cool owner who, like, he comes by and checks in on the analytics room, and he's like, well, Tanaka's got these good postseason ERA numbers, and they're like, yeah, good catch. And then when I leave the room, they're like, all right, let's get back to business. What the hell was that?
Yeah. But instead of bringing the Tanaka postseason, you just actually bring in, like, buttered rolls or, like, coffee.
Okay. No, I'll take that, too.
I like mine, with just a touch of milk and a couple sweeteners, okay?
Yeah.
Went from owner GM to coffee boy real quick in this dream world, but it makes sense. But
the big thing here is that Talking Yanks has an analytics department, and every Wednesday we bring it to you. Katie, how are you doing? We are sitting right at the edge of the deadline here. No moves yet to be made. So, like, how are your anxiety or angst, or how are you feeling towards all this?
I'm, as we record this on Tuesday, just before the game, I'm a little anxious. I got to admit. I know Cashman's deal. He's so slick and he's all under the radar, and he just pounces, and then he comes out with these sort of unexpected maybe deals that people weren't always anticipating. But at this point, in most years past, I feel like he's done something. Maybe it's a little bit of a recency bias because we did make a couple moves last year, far before the deadline. But and this year, as we all know, as you guys do on your tremendous Talking Baseball podcast, it's been a super slow deadline. This is historically or recent history. This is unprecedented, basically, for the amount of deals that have been done before July 30th, before July 31st. I'm sort of on the edge of my seat right now. It's a little bit of nervous stuff, but I have faith in Cash. So there you go.
Yeah. I say
this, and who knows what's going to happen in the next 24 hours.
I hope something happens. I'm getting to the point where I need something big to happen. I don't know what big can happen. That's the thing. It doesn't seem like there's much big that can happen. It seems like a lot of these big guys are going to stay put. But, I'm pretty anxious. We'll probably be coming to you with a reaction episode soon because there will be some moves made.
Well,
yeah, there has to be.
KT with early shots fired about the Jordan Lyles trade to Milwaukee, I guess, but okay. And baseball kind of needs this. Like, getting out of Yankee land for a second, baseball did the whole thing. They got rid of the waiver trade deadline. Like, this is supposed to be a big thing, and I'm really rooting for baseball the next 24 hours, along with the Yankees getting an impact piece. And Katie, I think interesting that you said anxiety there. I think something that was a huge part of the deadline last year, we knew we were going to get pieces, But the big thing Yankee Land was worried about was Luis Severino turning it around. Like, we knew we weren't going to get the ace. Like, we were focused on, well, okay, we'll bring in some bodies, but Sevy's going to be our guy. Like, let's fix him. This year, we don't know if Sevy's even involved, and we're kind of looking for a guy. And if we don't get that person, then we have to talk ourselves into Sevy or maybe fixing James Paxton, who I think we're going to talk about. So, there is more anxiety this year.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure. And in the recent, I would say, bad stretch of pitching, of starting pitching, has not made it any easier on Yankee fans or on Cashman.
Yeah.
I love to state the obvious, but yeah.
I wish we weren't in such dire straits about pitching, and I think we're going to talk a little bit about that today and why we are searching for that guy. Part of the reason is that James Paxton was supposed to be that guy, one of those guys, along with Sevy. I mean, they were supposed to be our 1-2. Currently, our bad and not existent. Katie, what's going on with James Paxton? I'm hesitant to even ask because if anyone listened to the last episode, he gets me so fired up. I can't stand him right now. Pisses me off. Are you going to bring any good news, or is it all just like, are we going to pile on? I know we're going to talk a little bit about the first inning woes and everyone calling for an opener, and I'm interested to hear what you have on that. So wherever you want to start, take it away. James Paxton, what is going on?
All right. Well, doing this analysis, doing all this research on Paxton, I'm about as fed up with him as you are. I mean, it burned me when I was going through the numbers. And like you said, right now I think I just want to focus on the first inning stuff. There's also the issues of what's going on since he returned from the IL. Possibly he's still hurt and kind of his first 2 months versus the last 2 months. But I think really right now I just kind of want to focus on the first inning. It's a little bit easier. Also a small sample, but yeah, I'll give you guys a little bit of hope. There is sort of a little bit of good news at the end, but you're going to have to wait to get there. So Paxton first inning, it's a problem, and it's not just for the last 2 months. He had I think it was a 6+ ERA in the first inning over the first 2 months, which is not as bad as it has been recently, but this has been a problem the entire season. So I just kind of want to get that out there for everyone. And first of all, as I like to do here, just kind of introduce everything, go through the stats and where he ranks in terms of his struggles. Everybody knows that starting pitchers, they do struggle a little bit more. They get hit a little bit harder in the first inning, obviously, because you're facing the top of the order. So the numbers are slightly inflated, but the degree to which Paxton has struggled is obviously just worlds worse than anyone else. His 11.00 ERA is the highest in baseball right now. His 10 homers are tied for the most allowed. That's with Steven Matz. And he's got a 787 slugging percentage against, which is tied for this, which is the second highest. Just in case you were wondering, I believe Christian Yelich has like a 707 slugging percentage this season. So
I was going to say I was just about to look up some of Barry Bonds' old season. So when you drop
actually I got a good one here. So 787 slugging, and the closest comp I could come for that one was actually I had this written down. So Babe Ruth in 1927, you remember? I think he had 60 homers that season. He had a 772 slugging for the season.
Okay. Yep.
So and then it was a 456 WOBA allowed in the first inning, which is the third highest in baseball. WOBA, as we know, is a sort of the catch-all offensive stat that we like to use in the analytics world. And just for a point of reference on that .456, Christian Yelich leads Major League Baseball with a .53. So basically, he's turned everybody into Christian Yelich and Babe Ruth combined.
Yes, perfect.
The all-around hitting of Christian Yelich and the power slugging of Babe Ruth.
Jesus.
Good thing, we have this guy here. Obviously his ERA after the first inning is 3.14, which is a lot better. It's like a top 20 mark for those innings. So, there is definitely this line of demarcation. We know he struggled in other innings recently, so I'm not going to say that it's just limited to the first inning, but the first inning is obviously a tremendous spike. So now that we have that out of the way, all the bad stats, so obviously what I did is I just kind of wanted to see what the differences were. And the first thing that really jumped out to me was his peripherals. I'm talking strikeouts and walks are basically the same. He's got the same strikeout rate, the same walk rate. So it really doesn't seem to be like a sort of a command issue. Obviously, the biggest thing is the home runs. And what I found is that he's giving up a lot more fly balls. So in the first inning, he's got a 55% fly ball rate. So more than half of the balls in play are going to be fly balls. And that's compared to about a third in the other innings. And this is the most astounding stat. Those fly balls are just becoming homers at an incredible rate. And as you guys might know, homer to fly ball ratio can be somewhat of a random statistic in that it eventually evens out over time. So right now in the first inning, 37% of his fly balls are becoming home runs. And then in the other innings, it's about 10.5%. Now that 37%, the league average is 15%. And
What?
that's about his career average. I mean, he is a fly ball pitcher, but basically 3 times the rate.
The league average is 15% of a pitcher's fly balls will be home runs, and currently Paxton in the first inning is at 37?
Yeah. So, sort of a silver lining is that, that has to come down. But, we're talking small samples, so anything can happen in, 20, 25 innings, which is what it is right now. That to me was just astounding. And we know he's a fly ball pitcher, and he's given up more fly balls. It's just that those flies are just, every time someone hits them, it's basically a home run. He's getting no lazy fly balls at all. And so one thing I kind of wanted to focus on was his four-seamer, because he does lean on that a little bit more in the first inning. It's about 69% of his pitches versus 62%, and that's typical of all of his seasons in the first inning. His fastball velocity is down slightly in the first inning, again, about a half a mile per hour. But again, that's typical for him to start off a little bit lower and then really ramp up in the later innings in prior seasons. And he's never had a first inning ERA like even close to this before. It's been more in like the 4s.
But it's always been bad, but it's never been this bad.
Yeah, it's always been a tiny bit worse than league average, but no, it's been nowhere close to ever this.
Whenever you're done giving the stats, I have a question for you about Paxton in his first innings and what you think the reasoning will be. So I don't know if you have a couple more numbers you want to throw our way.
Yeah, I got a couple things on the fastball that I wanted to put in there. Because I kind of just wanted to hone in on that because it is, 70% of the pitches he's throwing in the first inning. And so one thing that I found was pretty interesting. There's 2 things actually, looking at sort of his mechanics, because that would be the first thing you'd think of is, gosh, there's got to be something just a little bit out of whack with him. Otherwise, I don't really know how you'd explain it. But it is sort of notable that his spin rate is about 70 RPMs lower on his fastball in the first inning than it is in other innings. So he's just not getting that high spin fastball that he can locate and get whiffs above the zone. And what the other thing that was was interesting is that his release points were a little bit off as well. He was releasing it a little bit higher and a little bit more towards first base. So I'm not a pitching hero, I'm not a pitching coach or anything, but those were the things that just sort of jumped out of me in terms of mechanics. So maybe there's other people out there, that kind of know if that may be affecting his spin, it may be affecting his ability to locate the pitch, to push off on his. I mean, I don't know what's happening with the knee, but his location is much worse. So unsurprisingly, with those worse mechanics, he's just not getting. He's not getting that high in the zone fastball that he's able to do in the other innings, which get whiffs. So it's about 10% lower of him being able to locate the fastball in that area, just at the top of the zone, maybe a little bit out, maybe a little bit low, which is pretty much that's the key area for him getting whiffs. And so his fastball swing percentage overall is lower in the first inning. It's about 20% compared to about 28% in the other innings. And then, I mean, people are just teeing up on his fastball. And these numbers, I mean, these are just video game numbers for his fastball. There's been 50 at-bats that he's ended with his fastball in the first inning. And he has opponents have a 940 slugging, 940 slugging, a 380 batting average, and a 556 WOBA, which, there's literally no comparisons to that. I mean, just no. So that's kind of my observations, both on his fastball and just kind of, what he's been doing in the first inning. And I don't know I don't know how to fix it. I'm not a pitching coach, but there's clearly something different going on.
Yeah. So I say this a lot, and I get a lot of pushback from analytical people and the people that like analytics. But I mean, you're the queen of analytics, my favorite, but you understand that, it's not only analytics. And that's where the people that I get in tiffs with. I think Paxton's first inning woes are between the ears. So do you think that's like out of left field for me to say? Like one time he pitched poorly and then he pitched good the next game, and what Paxton's own words were, I wasn't throwing the ball downhill. I wasn't like throwing with emphasis. That was what he said he thought was the problem, which to me just means he wasn't geared up. He wasn't bringing it.
I absolutely agree with you that it's I don't know how much of it is mental, if it's 90%, if it's 50%, but there has to be something going on, because he's not like this in the other innings really, and it is it seems to be some sort of mechanical thing. And I mean, it's baffling. And, I think that I think he needs to, I don't know if he's doing it, but, obviously, I think that he's been looking at some video. I know he's been trying to change his pre-start routine in the bullpens. But yeah, something's going on, and it's affecting his entire, I think now recently, it's affecting the rest of his game. I think that's why you're kind of seeing the struggles later in the innings, because he knows he's trying to fix the first inning stuff and it's not working. And then he just, like you said, he's got a brain. He's not a dumb guy. And I think he's thinking too much, and then that's affecting him in the later innings recently as well.
And Katie, I actually really like that spin, because how could it not bother you being a professional athlete? And for some reason, because his 3 starts before Minnesota or whenever it was, were actually really good, but you're just getting touched up in the first inning. And yeah, there's definitely a carryover effect. I think all 3 of us agree that part of this is in between the ears. I think, Katie, what was interesting that you brought up, and you say you're not a pitching coach, but you are analytics department, and I'm the pitching coach, so I'll go from there. I just don't know, and hey, maybe I'm joining the Larry haters, but the one word that you brought up the most there, Katie, was fastball. He throws it more and it's less effective. I mean, should there not be an idea that you go to the drawing board with, hey, let's really work the off speed this first inning. Like, is that too basic? Am I not thinking enough? I know, Katie, you're smart enough to know that we don't have the actual answers, but is that not a ridiculous statement? Like, why aren't we getting away from that fastball and working towards it?
Yeah, I mean, that's interesting. I mean, that's really a confidence thing with Paxton is kind of my theory, is that, I mean, it's got to be okay with him because he may not be comfortable throwing his curveball or his cutter more in the first inning. I mean, that could be it, and maybe that's something that needs to change. Maybe he does need to get more comfortable going to the off speed, mixing it up a little bit more. Because batters, I think, clearly have a plan. They know in the first inning what's going to happen. Where they know that his fastball is going to be a little bit flat. They know it's going to hang there in the zone. It's not going to. They don't have to worry about that high fastball that rises and trying to chase that. So yeah, I'm open to all options at this point. Just figure something out.
And I hate to be the coffee guy who yells something at the analytics team, but Katie, he's throwing the fastball more, and it's a worse fastball. I mean, there's the recipe.
Yeah.
Call me old-fashioned.
No, I mean, and that's what a lot of pitchers are doing. You see that around baseball. The pitching coaches in the analytics department are telling these guys to throw their better pitches more often, right? We've seen it with a bunch of different people. So yeah, that's definitely, I think, something that they could do. The one caveat I do want to make, and I feel like I should mention this, is that looking at his StatCast expected stats, which are the ones that are based on exit velocity and launch angle, his expected stats are a lot higher in the first inning. It's pretty significant. The slugging is about 300 points higher, so his expected slugging should be about 474, which is still not good. Right. And his expected WOBA should be about 331, which is, not good, not great, but it's not awful. So that's about 130% point difference in the WOBA, and about 60 point difference in his batting average allowed, 307 compared to an expected batting average of 234. So there's that silver lining, but as well, he's getting hit a lot harder in the first inning. His hard hit rate is up by about 5 percentage points, and his average exit velocity is up by about 5 miles per hour. So, yes, he hasn't quite earned the pounding that he's getting, maybe. Maybe he hasn't quite earned it yet, but the stats are real. It happens. You can't erase them. And there have been other, what I feel like are some meaningful changes to what he's doing in the first inning.
If he gives up a first batter home run again, Katie, I may punch my computer screen. Okay,
I think we need to have like a pillow in front of your screen just for the first inning of Paxton is what
first batter.
Have the first inning. First batter pillow. We do
3 leadoff home runs in a row in 3 games. Yeah. What's the record? That has to be the record.
I think. It's 4.
Who did 4? I want to go find someone who lived through that.
I know that it was tweeted out, when he did his 3-1. I can't remember who it was for, but I'm pretty sure that 4 is the record.
I mean, he's gotta walk the guy or hit him.
Just walk him, dude. Just walk him.
Like, if you need to find your fastball, yeah.
Just throw the junk and see if he chases. And if he chases, it's good because maybe he'll miss. And if he doesn't chase, fine. He's only on first base and not having made a trip around the bases already.
That's infuriating.
Yeah.
So, we'll see how it goes. He'll be facing the Red Sox?
Oh, yeah.
Or is he tomorrow?
Is it Friday night? No, he's Friday night, I think.
Perfect.
Who's Wednesday? Who's after Hap? CC?
I think it's
or Tanaka.
Tanaka?
Yeah, it's got to be Tanaka. Because Tanaka was game 1.
Yeah.
Or it's Robbie Ray. Yeah, Jake.
Yeah, Tanaka was last Thursday.
Luis Castillo. Yeah.
Max Scherzer, right? Max Scherzer. Oh, he's on the IL.
It's Hap tonight, Tanaka tomorrow. Everything for the Red Sox is listed as TBD. So I know we make our jokes, but there will be a wrench thrown in the equation.
Yeah.
Please be a good wrench.
All right. The next topic we have is another one that I'm a little tepid to get into. Jake and I had so many voicemails on the voicemail episode about this guy. So we talked about it a little bit. Some people were sending him to Hall of Fame. Some people were taking him out of the closing role. What do we have on Chappie? Should we be worried?
I like to start off with everything with relievers, as it's a small sample when we're comparing in-season stuff, because it is a small sample. It's been a problem in July, and that was pretty much it. Just gonna pull up the numbers of before July. He had a 1.36 ERA before July, and he'd given up a handful of hits maybe, but nothing like his struggles in July. He has a 8.22 ERA in the month with 7 2/3 innings. The biggest thing, obviously, is the strikeout to walk ratio. 11 strikeouts, 9 walks in those 7 2/3 innings. The 9 walks, that's awful. That's more than one an inning. He's walking about 25% of the guys he's facing. So every other, 1/4 of the guys he's facing, he's walking. And they're not hitting him that hard. It's a 276 batting average, which is not good, obviously. A 400 slugging, not good. But, it's not like he's getting tattooed. He's only given up, I think, 1 homer. But he's given up a 425 on base percentage, which is basically unacceptable for a closer. And the thing I want to kind of calm people down just a little bit before I get into the analysis is that he's done this before. I think we all remember in August 2017 when he lost his closer job. It was a 7-game span there when he had a 10 ERA. He had 7 walks. He had 7 strikeouts and 6 walks in about 7 innings, so kind of the same time frame. The thing was, he was getting hit hard. He gave up 3 homers in that month, in those 7 games. So he's done this before. You just don't want to see it. You wish that was the one time, but now we have a second time that he's struggling. And relatively, you're not going to say it's as late in the season as August, but it is after the All-Star break. So there are some durability concerns there. So that's kind of maybe a little bit of a silver lining. But overall, he's already allowed more runs this year than he did last year in 11 fewer innings. He's allowed 16 runs. He allowed 15 last year in 11 fewer innings. So it is starting to pile up. And this July performance has sort of been the exclamation point, I think, really the frustration point for people, because he was so good before July. So basically, my biggest concern, obviously, and I think most people's concern, is those walks. And not only is it's infuriating because that's usually the way that it starts off the inning. And that just, it frustrates him, I think. It frustrates fans, frustrates Boone. But moving into that, obviously the other couple things that jump out to me before I talk about the walks is that his fastball velocity is down a little bit, about a mile per hour, so 98.7 to about 97.5. That's not good. His slider velocity is also down about a mile per hour. I didn't see really any changes in his stuff like movement or any of his release points. So that to me seems maybe, I don't know what that means, but I don't think it's the velocity thing. And I'm going to kind of explain that in a little bit. The biggest thing to me is just not being able to get ahead of the batters and just really bad location from the start. So his first pitch strike percentage during the month of July is 47.5%. So less than half of the at bats he starts with a first pitch. It was
That's
about
not good.
64%. Yeah, it was about 64%. That's his typical rate, and that was what it was before. So not getting ahead, and batters, they know they're not able to. They just aren't swinging at his pitches. His overall swing percentage is 29% in the month of July. It was 47.5% in before this, in June, April, May, and June. And then, what I kind of want to say is he's getting the same number of swings basically in zone pitch on pitches when he actually throws it in the zone. So that hasn't been really the issue. It's obviously getting the chases. His chase percentage is down about 10%. And that's really what he relies on, because he relies so much on that slider and those fastballs at the top of the zone, batters being fooled by them and chasing them. And he just hasn't been able to do that. And this is kind of, it starts at the beginning in terms of the location. His first pitches, his zone percentage, 45% this in July compared to 58% before. And then when you look at 3-ball counts, this is the most astounding thing. 33% of his pitches in 3-ball counts are in the zone this month. And before that, it was about 70%. So for some reason, he is just struggling from the beginning, but even more when he gets into that 3-ball count, he just has no idea what he's doing with the ball. That to me seems a little bit mental, because I couldn't find anything different, in terms of like mechanics. The one thing I will say is that for some reason, he's throwing his slider more in those 3-ball counts. It's about half his pitches in 3-ball counts now. And before it was about 29%. And as we know, that slider is pretty difficult to command. And it walks a very fine line, because you don't want to put it right in the heart of the zone. You want to get it on the edges or in that sort of, little bit outside of the edges. And basically, he's just, that's the big mystery, is why is he throwing the slider in those 3-ball counts?
Yeah.
To me. And overall, I mean, his slider command overall, not just in the 3-ball counts, is just really messed up right now. Just some high-level numbers for his sliders. He's throwing 46% of his sliders are balls overall for the month, not just 3-ball counts. 46% are balls, and that was 29% in the first 3 months of the season. And basically what he's doing is, I kind of wanted to really look at the location, because as we mentioned, he's missing down and away a lot. And as I mentioned before, the ideal location for a slider is kind of in that what they define in StatCast is like the shadow area, which is just a little bit inside the zone, but just a little bit outside the zone. So if you imagine a ring right around the zone, the shadows, he is throwing slightly fewer pitches there. So he's not really being able to, he's not quite getting the pinpoint accuracy there in that shadow zone, but the swing rate is the same. So he's still getting guys to swing at those pitches, which is good. It's that next ring, which StatCast defines as the chase zone. So it's just outside of this shadow zone, but it's not like a pitch that's like totally like wasted, totally out of the zone. And so it's like a second ring. And this is the really interesting thing, I think, is that he's throwing a lot more pitches in that zone, in that chase zone. 30% of his sliders are going there compared to 19% before. So you think that maybe is, kind of good. He's trying to get people to swing there because that's, where they normally do swing. But he's just, for some reason, not able to get batters to swing there. So the swing percentage in that zone this month is 12%. And in the first 3 months, it was 36%. So that's really, really where he's missing.
It's triple.
He's only gotten 2 of 17 pitches have been in that zone. Only 2 times the batter has swung in that chase zone in this month of July. That to me is the problem with his slider. That's sort of, if you really want to drill down to it, that is the mystery here. Why aren't batters swinging at that pitch, which they should be swinging at normally, where he's locating it? It's not like he's throwing a ton of wasted sliders that are just 4 feet above guys' heads or in the dirt, or anything like that. It's really that fine line that he hasn't been able to get those swings and misses.
Where you at with him, Jim?
I'm not that worried about Chappie. I never really have gotten that worried. Even in 2017, when I thought he should lose the closer role and Betances would get it, but when he came back, I was okay. He's back now, So the pitch selection is kind of interesting. And we had someone in our Talking Yanks chat ask hey, if Chapman comes into this game, the Red Sox game, what's your comfort level? And I was like, probably 7, 8 right now. But as soon as he throws the first 2 pitches, that either swings up to 10 or down to 2. It's kind of like I got to see what he looks like. And when he does walk that first batter, it's scary.
Yeah, when Chapman, for me, when Chapman goes through kind of a rough patch, which he's clearly in, I think it's funny. I don't know if there's a pitcher in the game that it just feels like it goes to a 3-2 count, and if he gets the guy out, I'm like, all right, 1, 2, 3 inning. And if he walks him, it's like, all right, well, the bases are going to be loaded with no outs, and we'll see if he can get out of it. And it's kind of bizarre, and it just seems like those 3-2 pitches, and maybe it's a lot of what Katie was talking about, are missing right now. And I'm not worried yet because I think if you're the best closer in the game, and, hey, Mariano, how are you? Stop comparing the two. Mm-hmm. But, even Mariano would have a tough stretch pretty much every season. And if you're a closer, if you only have one tough stretch a season, you're an elite closer. Even if you have 2, that's semi-normal. So for Chapman, right now you obviously want to see him come out of it sooner than later. The walk numbers are pretty concerning. And I think there's also maybe an underlying thing that we're ignoring with the 2 guys we focused on. Could be their knees. Paxton went on the IL with his knee injury, and hasn't Aroldis the past 2 seasons kind of taken like a Sabathia type, IL stint to get their knee cleared up? So you wonder if Chapman's struggles were to continue a little bit further, if something like that was to leak out, because that wouldn't surprise me at all at this point.
He had tendonitis that it was
yeah.
He couldn't.
Was it last year?
Last year. He couldn't hurt it anymore, but it would hurt him, but it didn't. He's he either could play through it or sit out. There was no fix though, I think.
Right.
If I'm remembering correctly. And he would just play through it a lot.
Yeah, and then I think there was a tipping point when they were just take a break. It was in May though, right?
I think so. I think they took him out of a game once. For injury.
Yeah, I
Donahue came and took him out let's not even, who cares? So we'll see. I'm not that worried about Chapman.
Yeah,
I'm not worried that
I'm not worried.
If when we get to the playoffs, it's kind of like Tanaka. I'm in. I think he'll be fine.
I'm not worried yet as well. Just because I know he's done this. I know he's had this kind of stretch before. I think that Chapman's a big momentum guy as well. You sort of have to be that type if you're a closer. They live.
Yeah.
You gotta thrive on the pressure. You got. They're wired differently. I'm not even going to be able to, to kind of explain or even think about how closers are wired. And each one is different too. So I'm not in the worry mode yet, but I am in the sort of let's monitor this mode, and hopefully he can get a few clean innings under his belt, and then just kind of ride it from there, because that's what's happened in the past.
Yeah.
I got a good laugh doing the voicemails because it seems like everyone online has a take that, Paxton, Sonny Gray, all these guys can't handle New York, Robbie Ray, Greinke, they can't handle the big city. Yet a lot of the same people want to go out and trade for your Kirby Yates to be our closer. And it's like, well, I'll tell you what, closing games in New York, a little different than closing it out for the Padres. That's again, Coffee Boy running in and yelling something at the analytics team.
Taking
what
shots.
I think we got. Is there a sharp stat of the day that's around Cash Daddy or something like that?
Your sharpest stat.
Yes, we do have a. Oh, thank you. I like that intro. We do have a sharp stat, and it being the trade deadline, I thought that I would give some props to Cash God, because regardless of what he does during this deadline, and I don't know what he's done or what he's going to do or anything as we record this, but what he has already done to this roster this season, in terms of the free agent signings, I think deserves a lot of credit. And I have two stats that I want to bring, that I think are pretty astounding. So right now, obviously one of the best free agent signings that we had was DJ LeMahieu, and just how good was that? Right now, he is number one in WAR among all free agents that signed this offseason. So his is the top number among all free agents that signed. And he was only projected to have the 10th best WAR. So he's blown past his projections. And right now, he has the highest WAR among all free agents that signed this offseason. And then a second guy that I want to highlight for Cashman is Cameron Maybin. Right now, if you look at him in terms of those free agent leaderboards, he has the second highest WOBA, which, we mentioned before. And that's, kind of obviously putting a little bit more of a minimum on that. I think it's about a minimum of 100 plate appearances so far. But he has the second highest WOBA of any free agent that's signed. It's higher than DJ, yes. And he was actually projected to have the 45th highest WOBA out of about 100 or so free agents that had projections for this entering this season. So kudos to Cash God, who signed the guy that now has the highest WAR among free agents and the second highest WOBA.
Yeah. And I think it's what John and I have stumbled into this. And I guess if you're a Yankees fan who's paying attention, you stumbled into this. But the Yankees have clearly figured something out. I mean, between whether you want to focus on big guys like, signing LeMahieu to a contract, or, the trickle down to Voit, Maybin, Tauchman. They've clearly figured out something hitting-wise, which is awesome and kind of incredible. And it's I not to spin us too far back to the deadline, but I hope he can quell all the people that say he doesn't want to make a big move for a pitcher, because, God, that'd be nice.
It'd be really, really nice. He does have a bad track record with starting pitchers. Like, I'm not trying to – those people, they're correct. Like, he has not ever acquired – and there's some reasons, I'm not going to really get on him for the Verlander thing back in 2017. No. That was no one was doing that. Cole trade was interesting to look back on that. Like, if Clint was the piece and Andujar were the pieces, that was reported, right? It's Clint and Andujar.
Yeah, I think so.
Looking back on that now, you'd probably do that.
Yeah, sort of, yeah.
So I don't know, but we'll see. Wait and see. Be patient. It's not in the best interest of people trading to trade before they have to trade. So I never understand why people are so impatient, but we'll see. Anything else, Jake?
Yep.
I'm good, Big Daddy.
Good? Katie? Anything? You don't got a butter knife stat for us?
No, that was my butter knife stat. I don't know. Does Jake have any Jakey stats? Jakey analytics?
Jake gives the butter knife stats.
No, yeah. Full disclosure: the second I clicked that I mentioned Barry Bonds, I had to click on his page, and now I've in my my running baseball reference page. Maybe I'll make this a segment on my Twitter. I'll have what's on Jakey Baseball References page. And right now, I'm looking at the fact that Antonio Alfonseca got an MVP vote in 2000 with a 4.2 ERA, a 1.5 WHIP, and 70 innings pitched with 47 strikeouts. It's a bad reliever season. He got an MVP vote. So
find out who voted for him and write him an email.
Yeah. All right. I will do that now.
That's all you can do. All right. Thank you, guys. We'll be back probably sooner than we think with a reaction episode to whatever the deal and deals were made. Katie, thank you as always for joining us. Jake, you were pretty good. And we will...
You were bad.
Whoa.
Jake doesn't suck.
Didn't see that. Wow.
Ooh, what an ending. And we're out. Go Yanks. Tell them, Grams.